Hello, students. Hope you are doing well, and welcome to another reading comprehension passage. And on the basis of the passage, some questions are given. So there is the direction for question is answer the following question based on the information given below. Okay. So let's come to the text first. So what the text is given here. One of the most striking characteristic of the American women's suffrage, right, suffrage movement, is that its history has traditionally been told through the lives of its leading figures, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, right, Susan B. Anthony, Lucy Stone, Anna Howard Shaw, Carrie Chapman Cat, and Alice Paul, and the organizations they founded and let dominate the story to an extent that may be unique in the historiography of any other political or social movement. Historian Jean Baker called this the presidential model of suffrage history. So this process dates back to the 19th century when the different factions competed to cement their role in the historical record of the still evolving movement. Susan B. Anthony's collaboration in what became a three-volume history of her life, written by her close associate Ida Hosted Harper, is a prime example. Hosted presents Anthony as a heroic figure, totally dedicated to women's rights, a model designed to inspire future generations while also cementing Anthony's role as the personification of the struggle. Biography of Elizabeth Cady Stanton and others, often produced by their progeny or close associates, stake the claim for their subjects a historical significance, creating their own heroic narratives of sacrifice and perseverance for general public, which unfortunately was fast unfortunately was fast losing interest in their legacies. As a self-described serial biographer, it pains me to raise this prospect, but I do wonder about the diminishing returns of the grand biographical narrative, at least as applied to national suffrage leaders. Is there ever too much biography in a certain field? What is lost by focusing almost exclusively on iconic, larger than life leaders? Perhaps instead of continuing to profile leading suffragists, it would be more fruitful to identify new questions to ask about suffrage history as a whole. It is a premature to declare a moratorium on suffrage biography. However, suffrage history without biography would be a dreary and lifeless prospect. What we need instead is a commitment to a different kind of a suffrage biography, one which expands the master narrative to include a wider cast of characters who represent the diversity and scope of the movement, where it actually happened out in the country as a whole, not just a suffrage headquarters in Washington, New York, and Boston, fully documenting the activism of Africa African American women in their churches, communities, and public culture has the potential to reshape how we see the social and political uh, movements these women participated in, and placing African American women's contribution to the suffrage movement at the center rather than the periphery will dramatically shift our understanding of the fight for the vote. Collective biography is also well suited to capture the energy and passion that motivated people to risk so much for a cause. Biographical dictionaries like the American National Biography, notably or notable American Woman, and the online biographical dictionary of the women's suffrage movement in the United States offer the potential to create a broader, more representative picture of suffrage activism. Putting the entities in conversation with each other often uncovers what unexpected links and patterns that show how the story played out far away from national centers of leadership. When the biographical data from these individuals' lives is aggregated, the whole often does add up to more than the sum of the parts. Why stop at national boundaries? One of the most striking aspects of suffrage history is how international the story is. Ideas, tactics, and people migrated freely from country to country, and over time, rich friendship networks developed that nurtured and sustained the struggle over what turned out to be very long history. Biography offers an ideal format to capture those transnational pattern of exchange and interaction. So this is what the passage is all about. So what does the passage try to make us understand? The passage talks about how the history of the American woman, right? History of the what? American women's suffrage, right? Suffrage movement has mostly been told through stories about its famous leaders, isn't it? And what happened? These leaders, right? These leaders like Elizabeth Candy, right, that we find out, Stanton, and also Susan, right? Susan B. Anton, right? Have dominated the narrative, making it seem like they were the only ones involved. But the author questions whether this focus on big names is the best way to understand the suffrage movement, isn't it? So the author also said that what? They suggest that by only focusing on these leaders, we might miss out on the contribution of many other people, especially African, right or not? African, or you can say American women who played a big role, but you would find out they are not often talked about, right? So, in that case, African women in their churches, communities, and public culture has the potential to reshape how we see social and political movement these women participated in, right? So, uh, it is also said that what the suppressed story, right? The author thinks we should tell about what means the suppressed story in a way that include more voices and experiences, not just those of the well-known leaders. Uh, they believe this will give us a better understanding of how the movement really happened, both in the United States, right? United States, and also you can find out internationally, right? That is what the author pointed here. So if we look at the theme of the theme of the text, so what do we find out? The passage explores the traditional way of telling the history of the American women suffrage movement and suggest alternative approaches to broader the narrative, isn't it? So, and that's what is also we can consider the main idea of the story. The main idea is that the history of the American women suffrage movement that has been, you can say, predominantly told through the lives of its prominent figures, creating nothing but a narrow focus on iconic leader iconic leader or leaders. The passage questions the effectiveness of this approach. You can say that why stop at national boundaries. It is also stated about mm, some other questions. So you could say that the passage indicates that the effectiveness of this approach and advocates for a more inclusive and diverse narrative that covers the contributions of a wider range of individuals. Particularly, we are talking about African and American women, right? African and American women. Uh, it is also stated that the importance of capturing the energy and passion of grassroots activism, right? Activism and the transnational nature of the suffrage movement, right? So, beside that, if we talk about the tone of the text, the tone of the text is nothing but reflective in nature, and also we can say it is a critical, reflective and critical, right? As the author examines the limitation of traditional suffrage history narratives and proposes alternative perspective, there is also a sense of we can say that urgency, sense of urgency and importance in eh, advocating for a more comprehensive understanding of the suffrage movement. So, beside that, if I talk about the style of the writing of this particular uh, text, the style of the writing. So I could say that the writing style is nothing but called as analytical and persuasive in nature, persuasive, presenting argument and evidence to support the author's viewpoint. The author draws on historical examples and scholarly perspective to illustrate the, you can say that, what do we say that, illustrate the shortcomings of the traditional biographical approach and the potential benefits of um, expanding the narrative to include a broader range of voices and experiences, isn't it? Coming to the question, so what does the question point out here? It is asking that the author of the passage criticizes biographers for all the following reasons except. It's an except based question. The author in the passage criticizes biographers for all the following reasons except. So look into the first option. It says that exaggerating the importance of individual leaders at the expense of collective efforts. Second, failing to accurately document the contribution of grassroots activists. Then third one is perpetuating heroic narratives that overshadow the diversity and scope of the suffrage movement. Fourth, providing insufficient historical context for understanding the evolution of the suffrage movement. Now, if I go for the option one, the passage does criticize biographers for exaggerating the importance of individual leaders, as mentioned in paragraph two, right? Paragraph two, where we can find out that paragraph two, we find out that option one is not the except one. So in that case, we can eliminate this option two, failing to accurately document the contribution of grassroots activists. So this one even indicate that uh, also criticizes biographer for failing to accurately document the contribution of grassroots. Next, it is also given, as mentioned in two, paragraph 2 of the passage. Then option 3, it is stated perpetuating or continuing heroic narrative that overshadow the diversity and scope of the suffrage movement. Now, this also criticizes biographers for perpetuating heroic narrative which overshadow the diversity and scope of the suffrage movement, can be found in a paragraph 2. Then option 4, obviously providing insufficient historical context for understanding the evolution of the suffrage movement. Yes, this does not mention anything about biographers providing insufficient historical context for understanding the evolution of the suffrage movement. We consider option 4 will be the correct. This option is not presented or not given in the text, so will be considered the correct answer. So the correct answer should be option 4. Option 4. So, and other options, option 1, option 2, and option 3, that we could find out in the paragraph 2 of the passage. Okay. Hope you understood this. That's all. Thank you.